If you're holding silver, if you're holding gold, if you're holding copper, precious metals, guys, we might be in for one of the most volatile weeks in a while. And what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to talk about this price. We have some massive news to talk about because this could be the week where everything starts to kick off once again. We're going to break that down, the likelihood of that happening. We're going to talk some US right-wing politics because things are not very happy in the US right now. We're going to talk the Iran situation and also what Peter Schiff is talking about for gold, about inflation politics as well. So we've got a huge video to get through today. If you guys enjoy it, just like it and let's get straight into it. So you can see right here, obviously, if you're holding silver, look, the last, 72 hours, this has been pretty rough stuff. Volatility is the name of the game. So there has been a lot of selling off of silver in the last, 72 hours. This is the same deal as gold. This is the same deal as copper, other types of assets out there. The S&P 500, you can see it right here, has dipped quite a lot in the last, days or so. And today it's going to open up as well. So if we open up the US futures market right now, you can see right here, Dow Jones down 0.66%, S&P 500 futures down 0.57%, NASDAQ futures down 0.76%. So don't be thinking this is just specific to gold, silver, or precious metals or anything like this. This is pretty much across the board. And it's not only that, it's crypto as well. So Bitcoin dropping below $77,000. And at the moment, there just seems to be, a big sell-off across the board. So people are anticipating maybe a storm is coming. They're cashing out. And again, ironically, where are they going? They're going into DXY to some degree. You can see right here, the DXY rising over the last, week or so, up, just a bit, but it is rising right there. And people are getting ready for what happens with the Middle East. But it's not just the Middle East, it's a lot of things right now. If you have a look right here, oil is going back up. So oil futures are surging above $107. And if we bring up some oil graphs right here and break this down, you can see right here, US oil starting to spike a bit right here. And if we have a look at some other ones, so Brent oil as well, you can see it right here. So from about the 7th of May, we had a bottom of oil down to about $94. But before that, it was a bit lower. It actually got down to, what is that level right here? $83. That was the bottom. And but you can see, you look at this trend line for oil, it's still going up. So there is a lot of, I would classify it as unfinished business in the Middle East. So this thing, unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be getting resolved. And if anything, this week could be the week where the fireworks restart over the Middle East again, unfortunately. So you can see right here, President Trump holds call with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to discuss potentially restarting the Iran war. And Tuesday, so about 24 hours from now, is the official kind of next meeting, or he's had one meeting, Trump's had a meeting, but there's going to be another one on Tuesday. So maybe by the end of Tuesday, we might have an announcement out of Trump what the next move is. But one thing we do know for sure with this Iran conflict is this is the worst type of war to basically have an unresolved outcome. So let's just say we park our morals and our ethics at the door. One thing that is very bad for this market at the moment is something we've been talking about on the channel, but the longer they drag this out, the longer they choke the global supply chain of the world, this is just bad, right? When you're shutting down oil trade, when you're shutting down, global trade, it can't be good. And this is one of the unfortunate things that is happening with this war, just from a purely economic perspective right there. And that's something we have to just have on the radar because a lot of those delayed lag effects, I don't think they've fully been impacted right now. And Iran is getting ready. They're getting, they've got the fiery rhetoric happening over here on X. You can see here, MB Galibaf says the world stands at the cusp of a new order. As President Xi said, the transformation unseen in a century is accelerating across the globe. And I emphasized that Iranian's nation's 70-day resistance has accelerated this transformation. The future belongs to the global south. So that's coming out of MB Galibaf right there. So some fiery words. And then we also have this coming out of Saeed. He says Americans are told that they must absorb rocketing costs of war of choice on Iran, put aside gas price hike and stock market bubble. Real pain begins when US debt and mortgage rates start to jump. Auto loan delinquencies are already at a 30-plus year high. This was all avoidable. That is what he's saying. He's saying you didn't need to choose this path. And this is the beauty of X, right? We can get both sides, what Trump is saying, what the Iranians are saying, so you guys can have a completely neutral, unbiased perspective. You got all the information. And Trump's actually launched a political war, and this is another divide. Remember, we've been talking about this divide, particularly within the right wing of the US political realm. Check out this frontier battle, and it's against no other than Thomas Massie. So obviously a massive tweet right here. I'm not going to read all this out. We'll be here so tomorrow reading this one out, but you get the vibe just from the, the first sentence right here. He says, third-rate Congressman Thomas Massie, a weak and pathetic rhino from the great Commonwealth of Kentucky, a place I love and won big 6 times, including all primaries, must be thrown out of office ASAP. So Trump doesn't want Massie to come into the picture, but there's a twist on this. Most of the comments over on X, if you read them, they're in support of Thomas Massie. Lots of people like him. They say he's the real deal, right? So there is a polarizing point of view. And if you have a look right here, who is Peter Schiff? And you guys know, if you know gold, you know silver, you know metals, you know who Peter Schiff is, right? One of the biggest bulls in the gold market and the precious metals markets. And his point of view on Trump, every day, guys, he's getting more and more anti-Trump. And let's read out some of his tweets and I'll give you guys my take on it. So he says right here, Trump actually said he doesn't want lower home prices so young families struggling to buy their first home can afford one. He wants already expensive home prices to keep rising so the older homeowners who bought them at much lower prices can keep feeling good about being rich. And this is not only, in the US, this is across the board, this problem. Young people struggling to get into the housing market. It is a very big dilemma. Australia's recent solution has just been to tax everyone more, which is not a solution, unfortunately. But yeah, this is a real issue. And if you have a look right here, Peter Schiff says the only Republican in the House who actually cares about the Constitution, votes his conscience, wants to end undeclared wars and stop the runaway deficit spending that is bankrupting our country is the one guy Trump wants to get rid of. What does that tell you about Trump? ? And Peter Schiff going in hard again. Then he goes on, all the hate coming from Republicans against Rep. Thomas Massie means Reagan's Republican Party is dead. We now have the most left-wing Republican Party in history. Democrats will move even further left to compete. This is a political death spiral. Got gold ? And then he goes on to say this, which is very important from an economic point of view. Don't make the mistake of buying long-term treasuries thinking 4.58% on a 10-year or 5.12% on a 30-year are good deals. Not only will those low yields not even come close to covering the purchasing power you will lose to inflation, but bond prices will fall as rates keep rising. And yeah, look, so we're in a rough ride regardless. I think one of the key things from a analytical point of view is all these countries, right? The US, and it's not just the US, but US is very important. Take a look at this monster clock, right? So 39.25 trillion. This is most likely going to 40 trillion. I don't think there's going to be much of a plan to fix this, but this is debasement of currency. This is what's happening. This is happening in a lot of Western countries. I'd say most countries out there, because it's like someone's in charge with a credit card and they're just going into as much debt as possible and they're never going to pay the bill off. That's really what is happening with many countries out there. And this is debasement of currency. So assets tend to do well, but what we are seeing, look, because this is a little bit of a spooky last 3 days, it's been a little bit extra spooky with the gold and silver prices and things like that. Unfortunately, we're seeing this double spooky effect come in. So if you've been a subscriber of this channel, we've been analyzing these prices and reporting the news. But one thing we have seen previously with silver and gold is when the market gets really fearful, the double spooky comes in and they sell off a lot of their risk assets. So that means high-tech stocks, it means crypto, it means silver, it means gold. And we're going to have to just see how these fireworks potentially resolve. So I do think, look, a lot of the focus will obviously be on Iran this week. So what happens with Iran? Does it all kick off, say, Tuesday or Wednesday, something like that? And then you have to kind of just, navigate from that point, right? But remember, there's lots of manipulation in this market. Long-term, fundamentally, gold, silver, very, very strong historical assets. Copper as well, I think will be in, historically very, very important asset. And, it is what it is. This is just the world we're living in right now. And we just got to surf through it and, and deal with it, as I say in Fight Club. Let the chips fall where they may. And it is what it is, guys. So not always going to be great news, but, I'll be staying optimistic on gold, silver. commodities. And if you guys like this type of news reporting analysis, make sure to subscribe to the channel. You get the next one completely for free. We make no money on this channel at the moment, absolutely none. So just subscribing helps out. We'll see if we can build up the subs and you know, continue on the journey, because you know it's good to stay up to date with all this stuff. And guys, appreciate you tuning in. Have a great rest of the day, and I will see you in the next one.